Hello, doctors. Welcome to the Circadian podcast. This is Dr. Nikhil. Today, we are going to talk about finance. In this podcast, we explore multiple things related to healthcare like finance, marketing, HR, PR, business strategies, and everything. So, today we have Mr. Tejas, one of my very closest enemy and friend, and company secretary, finance expert, and lawyer. He will be talking about multiple things related to the healthcare finance today. Let's welcome Tejas Wag. Hi Tejas.
Hi, Nikhil. Namaste.
Namaste. Good. Oh, enough of your praising. So let's start with the main topic. So Tejas, there is one set of doctors who are not at all managing finances scientifically or accounting scientifically, as you were saying. But there are a set of doctors who are doing this at too much extent that I am experiencing this so-called analysis paralysis in them, that they cannot take any decision, or they are changing their decisions so quickly based on this data. So in this situation, what they should do?
So, the finest example which I tell to all these doctors is, which is also in a way, I'm just promoting my services, that don't get too much involved in something which you are not masters of. Every fraternity is trained for certain kind of skill sets.
True.
Do respect what is coming out of that data-driven approach, but don't be bogged down by what is coming out from there also. If everything would have been profitable on Excel sheet, I would have done thousands of business, to be very frank.
True.
So, apart from these numbers and mathematics, there is something which we call as business sense, which actually takes your business ahead. Now, getting to these numbers from a data-driven approach can be your limelight or guiding light for your strategy. But these do not form a foundation of your strategy, for sure. So, as a doctor, you can just take a note of them, see if you can just think backward and do certain changes. But I won't say that fundamentally change everything every 3 months. Give some time for that data. Give some time to think over how your finances are turning out. The panic button has to be pressed when things are going on a red alert kind of scenarios. But again, looking at that dashboard every day and taking decisions every day, because we are not in an industry where every day something is changing. In a data-driven approach, every day your numbers might show your rent recovery is down today, your rent recovery is up today, or something like this. But having a vigilance of what you should be looking at is very important. Rather than just panicking every day and night, thinking आज इतना ही sale हुआ, आज rent recovery नहीं हुआ. For example, classically in dermatology setups, Monday to Friday you won't have rent recoveries. Good.
True.
Okay, because walk-in patients won't be there. But Friday, Saturdays and Sundays it will be very good. Or during festival season, if there are joint holidays, what we have seen is during joint holidays there are not many patients which comes in. So, not to panic or not to be too sensitive about the data which has been shown out. Okay. For example, in classic cases, sometimes your YouTube video might not perform. Sometimes it may perform well. But just because, I'm sure you are a master of this, but just because something is performing again, bombarding that with same thing, doesn't work sometimes. Yeah.
One more thing I have observed in doctors is there are certain things that they start in their setups in the hospitals. So for example, purchasing a robotic machine, right? Or launching some campaigns or conducting CMEs or this and that. There are certain things in which these big doctors are personally very much involved. Everybody knows that these things are failing. Everybody knows that these things are not financially viable. Everybody knows that even if we get profit out of this, the risk is too much. But then also these doctors get into this typical cost sunking trap, and they keep on doing that thing just because it was their decision. They keep on doing this thing and eat out the profits, right? So, how do you suggest to approach in this kind of a scenario?
So, fundamentally, I feel finance has nothing to do with emotions or egos. Okay, your finance works in black and white on paper, and your emotions towards your business or towards the decision which you have taken is your personal choice which might impact your finances. Okay, if certain things are on a trend level, not showing up to the mark which they should be showing. For example, if a doctor has put up a package or a scheme and it is not getting responded by a patient, for example, if you are putting holdings of robotic surgery in our clinic or in our center, and people don't appreciate this. People say, I want to meet the doctor. I don't want, even if you have this robotic or not, I want to meet Dr. Nikhil, let's suppose. After understanding that people are not anticipating it or your finance is not getting impacted by your decision, after a point, after consulting people like you and me, they should be slowly changing the direction in which they are thinking. Because it also comes, so this is another cost which should be built in your cost structure, which is cost of your R&D. This is a kind of a research cost which you are doing on yourself, on your clinic. What is working out well, what is not working out well. So, finance doesn't give you that this is working well or this is not working well. It gives you certain indicative parameters. You think that these indicative parameters are in your favor or not is your way of thinking or looking at these financials. But these are not absolute correct or wrong numbers. So let's suppose you intuitively feel that giving this scheme may bring more patients to you. But if over a period of time, if it is not bringing, and somebody of your genre says, sir, have a patient of more 3 months and it will start kicking in again. Okay. Then on a finance level, I would suggest, okay, go for it for more 3 months, more 6 months, but have hard stop somewhere. Okay. So I'm not saying if in 3 months if a scheme is not working, just pause that scheme. Okay. Because then it also burns this 6 months of effort. Got it. But also have rigidity as last 6 months में ये नहीं हो पा रहा है और 3 महीने और 6 महीने देखे क्या अलग होने वाला है and map those decisions. Okay. Yeah.
One more thing I have observed especially in marketing trends are always changing. Right? There is someone come into a market and change the total marketing games altogether. Like for example, let's take an example of a Pristine Care. Right? Pristine Care has changed the game of general surgery altogether. Pan India, at least in the north side of India. Right? So likewise, all the hospitals and every single consultant has to change their marketing games, had to change their costings and pricing and all those things. So as marketing game changes, does finance game also change?
Yeah. How? It has to change. For example, there was a time when initial fees which were charged by doctors, initial consulting fees, were the primary source of doctors' revenue. Right now, that has shifted drastically with pharmacies coming out, with certain other elements coming out, and doctors are looking at a very deep shift in their revenue sources also. So right now, many doctors might not see the initial consulting as their primary source of revenue, but the later part of it might be their primary source of revenue. So a lot of doctors have started giving discounts or leeways of their primary consulting. This is how finance also changes.
Okay.
So somebody like Pristine Care, we have their success stories, but we don't know their failure stories also. The kind of marketing yes and do's and don'ts which they have followed, the kind of investment which they have done before this model got right. So if we have an account of what wrong was done by them, what investments they have focused in this, then our perspective towards the success will change.
So there is another thing. So they say in English, grass is greener on the other side, right? So I have seen this syndrome in every doctor. That they say, उसका business बहुत अच्छा चल रहा है, उसका practice बहुत अच्छा चल रहा है, वो बहुत ज़्यादा profit कमा रहा है, उसको बहुत ज़्यादा patients आ रहे हैं, मेरे पास कुछ है ही नहीं, मेरे पास कुछ है ही नहीं. Right? I don't think this is a correct entrepreneurial mindset. Right? You should be competitive, obviously, but what I think is you should be granularly competitive. Right? You should have, even if you are comparing yourself with your competitor, you should have that SWOT analysis ready. That what are the strengths and weaknesses and all those other things that this particular competitor is having. and how I can find that blue ocean out there and get into that blue ocean, right? And where I seriously think, other than marketing knowledge or the business knowledge, doctors should have a serious financial knowledge to understand this SWOT of their competitors, right?
I would say rather than competition, look out for benchmarking. Rather than competing with other doctors, of course, theoretically or procedure-wise, you can compete what good they are doing, what they are not. But I feel everybody should do a benchmarking of what other clinics or other hospitality chains are doing in their vicinity. I feel if benchmarking is done correctly, and there are financial tools to do this benchmarking. We do it with our clients where how other clinics are performing on a financial level. What kind of marketing spends they are doing. You never know that doctor might be getting good amount of patients, but their marketing spend might be too above the roof.
True.
Okay, or they might be doing some PR agencies or some other stuff which you guys are not doing.
Or they are giving heavy cuts to the referral doctors.
Anything might be, because we see only the tip of the iceberg. We don't see as to what has gone beneath it. And so to understand it in totality, the analysis has to be done in totality. And this fear of missing out, ki my practice is not working, somebody else's practice is working. This is just it is just a human emotion where it might, it has nothing to do with finance person, is what I feel.
So my last question would be the most important question: how to calculate profit and loss, and what is this thing called EBITA?
Yeah. So from where this discussion started, after you correctly start calculating what is your revenue, once you start calculating what are your direct costs which are aligned to your practice, okay, the remainder of it, okay, which is typically what we call sales minus expenses, will give you this EBITDA.
Okay.
EBITDA is nothing but income before interest, tax and depreciation. And what this is your direct cost. So in finance, we differentiate cost between direct cost and indirect cost.
Okay.
So direct cost is, let's suppose I do a procedure. Certain medicines are required, certain things are required directly for that procedure to happen. Those are my direct costs.
Okay.
Certain costs like my cost or maybe rent cost or certain marketing brand level cost are your indirect costs. Okay. You can't align my cost towards a procedure. So these are indirect costs. So once your sales is reduced by your direct cost and indirect cost, what you get is your profit.
Okay.
Now this profit has two major elements. Profit before interest, tax and depreciation. What does this mean? Let's take a very simple example. Dr. Nikhil is there, who has started this clinic with his own money.
Okay.
100% financed by his own money. Now, Nikhil won't have any interest cost.
True.
Now, this is another doctor, Dr. Tushar, who is having his clinic where he has not invested his money, but he has borrowed this money from a financial institution.
Okay.
Now, Dr. Tushar will have interest cost in his P&L. Taking a parallel example where the kind of patients both of them have, the kind of expenses which they have are constant, even though Tushar's profit will be less than Dr. Nikhil's profit. This is only because there are certain capital related cost, which is your interest cost, is inbuilt in your P&L. To simplify this, Dr. Tushar would have interest as a component of expenses, whereas Dr. Nikhil won't have this.
True.
Because of this, your net profit will differ.
True.
Now, in core finance term, if we have to analyze as to how your business is performing, then we say that your business should be indifferent of your capital structure.
Okay.
That means you bringing this money from your own pocket, from banks, from a friend, should not impact how to analyze your profit. Okay. That is why people from the finance fraternity look at EBITDA as their EBITDA as a denomination to map as to how their businesses are performing.
Okay.
So some doctor who is heavily leveraged, that means who has heavy debt on himself, okay, and some doctor and another doctor who doesn't have debt, okay, if both of their EBITDAs are constant or similar, then we can say both the businesses are working at the same level. Profits might change, your net profit might change in both the scenarios, but because of this interest component, both of their profitability change.
Okay.
Similarly, along with this interest component, there is something called depreciation. Because of this depreciation also, since it is not a tangible expense, what is depreciation in the first place? It is recovery of your assets from your P&L on a periodic basis.
Okay.
For example, you bought a machine worth rupees 10 lakh rupees. And this machine on a fair idea will work for 10 years. Ideally, every year you should be putting 1 lakh rupees in your P&L towards recovery of this machine for 10 years.
True.
So, while calculating how both of your businesses are performing, we remove this depreciation part also. To analyze and understand whether both of you are performing on a same level or not. Okay. That is why EBITA is an instrument to calculate as to what competitors are doing, how my business is performing. Now, on a holistic level, what you can do is, in a simpler terms, you can just go online, look out for certain listed companies who are listed in this space, in hospitality space, in medical space, and look out for their EBITDAs. Okay, if you see an hospital or chain of clinics is functioning at, let's suppose, 25% of EBITDA, and if your clinic is performing at 35% of EBITDA, then we can say you are performing better than the market. If the market on a generic level is performing at 20% of EBITDA and you are at 10% of EBITDA, then we would say you are performing under the market. And that is how EBITA is crucial or important to see how your business is going. So that is why once you see your dashboard every month, every quarter, you should also see where your EBITA is going on, where your depreciation recoveries are going on, how your rent and profitabilities are going on. So these are important parameters to see.
On a closing note, I usually find doctors and the hospitals and the management of the hospital blaming marketing teams, whether there's an internal team or the external agency, for their losses or for their whatever the thing is, failures. So what I personally think is, if that organization, that individual doctor for that matter, is not financially sound, here not I'm saying that hospital should be profit making or not. I'm saying financially sound, financially completely clear, service wise clear, which includes their in-house manpower also, which is clear at services, results are clear, then and then only that organization is marketable. Otherwise that organization is not at all marketable, as marketing is the front face. For every failure, for every losses, they blame marketing people. But if that organization is not at all financially sound and financially clear, they are definitely going to make losses no matter how great marketing you do.
Very true.
Right?
Yeah.
So on this note, we'll close this podcast. Thank you, Tejas, for visiting Circadian. So stay tuned for these kind of enriching podcasts. Here, our only aim is to educate all the doctors in which we are not at all educated, like finance, HR, and marketing. Stay tuned and watch our videos, and do share with your own community and own friends. Thank you.